An elite alien council intercepts a silent anomaly near a quarantined human system. What they uncover defies all known laws of physics and sanity. As the veil of dark matter peels back, humanity's absence becomes far more terrifying than their presence. One chilling sentence leaves the galaxy reeling. The great observatory of Cygnus Prime floated in solemn stillness above a dying gas giant, its violet storm spiraling endlessly beneath its glasswork lattice. Inside, 12 counselors of the Ascendant Corps stood in a silence broken only by the deep pulse of gravitational monitors. Ancient, evolved, unchallenged for 3 millennia. Until now. The anomaly had appeared near the quarantined Terran system, not a broadcast, not a ship, not even radiation. A lack, a subtraction in the dark matter field, symmetrical and pulsing like a heartbeat. It moved in deliberate arcs, consuming invisible mass without displacement. It was not emitting, it was erasing. No civilization below Class 10 can manipulate dark strata. Councillor Valak whispered, twin ocular rings narrowing, and the Terrans are barely Class 6. They were, came the reply from First Councillor Erav, voice laced with a discomfort that had no precedent in her 7 centuries of rule. The chamber darkened as they brought the anomaly's rendering into view, a rotating 4D helix of dark matter depressions. It formed a structure, a fleet, vast, unlit, and perfectly silent. Each vessel was only visible by what it displaced. Even the predictive AI could not calculate their mass. It returned null values. Could these be remnants? Artifacts? Asked Councillor Halton, wringing his 3 tendrils unconsciously. The Terrans have been quiet for years, unresponsive, dead. No, Erav said, staring at the data. They've stopped talking. That's not the same as dying. A junior analyst burst into the council chamber without permission, a cultural affront that would normally warrant demotion, but the horror in his face bought him seconds. They've breached the observation net. He gasped. They're inside the perimeter. They're behind us. Erav turned slowly. Define they. One word appeared on every terminal. Not transmitted, not spoken. It appeared, burned directly into their data feeds by an unknown protocol. Observed. The chamber plunged into panic. Shields raised, probes launched, but the instruments showed nothing. The dark matter field behind Cygnus Prime had simply folded, like a curtain pulled back, then the feed cut, static. The silence aboard the IND Providence felt thicker than the hull plating. Commander Elia Rourke stood beside the singularity-warped viewport, watching the alien observatory drift through phase glass like a beetle in amber. It hadn't reacted fast enough. None of them did. Countdown complete, her AI whispered. Fleet formation integrity stable, cloak recharge in progress. How many saw it? She asked quietly. Uncertain, but fear has already propagated. Aliyah placed her hand on the console, fingertips grazing a relic of old Earth. A cracked dog tag etched with a name long buried. She clipped it to her chest. Begin the Ghost Walk protocol and send the message. To whom? Everyone. She turned, her face lit only by the red emergency strip lighting, and spoke one line for the record. One line she knew would echo in every alien tongue across the stars. We warned you, silence wasn't surrender. Outside, the black-armored fleet blinked out of visible reality. The galaxy trembled, not because humanity had returned, but because they never left. The IND Providence vanished like a dying thought. Across 11 sectors, observatories went dark within seconds of each. Other, not destroyed, not even touched, just removed from observable space. The Ascendant Corps' long-range neural lattice choked with null packets. Transmissions failed mid-sentence. Surveillance arrays returned static. No alarm sounded because the systems couldn't detect an enemy they didn't know how to classify. First, Councillor Erav stood before the shattered council chamber. Gone was the symmetry. Gone was the protocol. Half the councillors had fled to off-world bunkers. The others simply sat, stunned and broken, staring into nothing. Their entire civilization had been built on understanding, on knowing, and now they couldn't even find the edge of the knife. Initiate flare doctrine, Shrav ordered finally. That protocol was abolished. I just reinstated it, she growled. Underneath the frozen ruins of the Tycho Deep facility, Staff Sergeant Reese Hart stitched through corridors lit by flickering backup lights. The walls groaned, not from damage, but from strain. Reality here felt off, like someone had shifted the mass of the planet 2 centimeters to the left. Behind him, Dr. Kwan struggled to keep pace, her hands shaking despite the shock stabilizers on her wrists. They don't understand what they're looking at, she muttered. To them, it's terror. To us, it's geometry. Reese paused at the final bulkhead. You said the warships weren't ships at all. They're displacement shells, built from gravitational harmonics. No engine trails, no emissions, no life signs, just shapes that refuse to exist in predictable ways. And we control them? Kwan hesitated. No. We woke them. A low rumble shook the walls. Not an explosion, but a ripple, as if a god had stepped nearby. Then we need to put them back to sleep. Kwan's eyes locked onto his. What if we're not meant to? 3 systems over, on a moon orbiting a dying red dwarf, a Kithari sky-mind relay blared a single alert across. The neural spectrum observed, phase 0 initiated, contact inbound. Within minutes, planetary defenses began failing. Not under attack, but under confusion. Targeting systems couldn't resolve threat vectors. Some missiles reversed course, others vanished in mid-flight. Above them, barely visible in the dust-scattered atmosphere, something massive rotated. In perfect silence, a geometry too precise for sanity, it was shaped like a spear wrapped in absence, rippling like fluid steel, lined with what looked like script, not human, not alien, but a form of mathematics engraved into hull plating. Coder's blade. Inside, Pilot First Class Juno Marek gripped her neural tether and guided the vessel's mind across the planetary exosphere. You're drifting, warned Command. I'm listening, she whispered. The ship did not respond with engines or sound, only a slow warping of local space, like a thought deciding it wanted to be real. Engage, Marek. She leaned forward, pulse steady. Let's see if they understand consequences. The warship turned downward. The sky cracked without noise. Everything that followed was impossible. Then the stars blinked, and where once a military base had stood, there was only dust orbiting memory. Ashes spiraled in low orbit, drifting like forgotten prayers. The Kithari world had been sterilized, without fire, without kinetic force, its infrastructure unmade at the subatomic level, systems unwritten by gravitational interference alone. No debris, no bodies, only null. And across every data channel a message etched itself in pure phase distortion, bypassing encryption and species barriers. Proximity, consequence, in the high sanctum of the Ascendant Corps' mobile command vessel. Councillor Velak trembled as he watched the feed, or rather the absence of one. They didn't attack, he whispered. They just corrected something. They're editing reality, said Erav, and they've chosen us as the margins. A silence followed, broken only by the wet sound of one advisor retching behind a pillar. Then came the third signal, this time not from deep space. It came from within the core vessel itself, a breach in dark matter shielding, the kind that shouldn't exist unless... Borders, someone gasped. No hull breach, no alarms. But across every deck, lights dimmed one notch lower, and gravity skewed by 0.001 g, barely perceptible. But wrong, uninvited. Security rushed to respond, but found nothing. Until, in the vessel's central library of species threat classifications, a new entry wrote itself on the archival wall, a neural display etched by unknown code. Species, humanity status, observed behavioral classification, non-linear strike entity. Response, not recommended. A whisper through the speakerless comms. I think they're inside the data. Miles below Saturn's rings, in the classified echo layer of Outpost Aeon, Dr. Ezra Vale paced around the dark resonance tank. Suspended inside was a fragment of something not made, grown from compressed quantum loops inside a black site singularity, a shard from one of the dark matter vessels. It vibrated like it was dreaming. Commander Rourke stood on the observation deck, hands folded, lips tight. It reacted again, Vale said. When the Kithari world collapsed, it pulsed. You think it felt that? Rourke asked. No. I think it did it without orders, without command. Rourke didn't blink. Autonomous? Worse, Vale muttered. Aligned. Rourke stepped closer, voice calm, low. Then we better start asking the right question. Vale looked up. Which is? Rourke's jaw tightened. Who taught them? Deep within the remains of a shattered monitoring station orbiting Deneb, a lone surviving sensor drone activated. Its last log entry caught only one frame before corruption. A dark figure, humanoid, encased in anti-reflective plating, eyes burning like data cores, standing on air, among nothing, as stars bent around him. And as the corrupted video looped, the data core repeated its final fragment before total failure. Observed. 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 The underground vault beneath Outpost Aeon shook with a resonance that didn't register on seismographs. Not vibration, but intent. Something deep below. The mantle stirred for the first time in a decade. The fragment in the resonance tank began humming, but no sound came out. Dr. Ezra Vale's breath caught in his throat as he watched the readout spiral into impossibility. Temporal data desynced. Particle probabilities exceeded 1.0. The laws of physics were no longer laws, merely suggestions. Rourke watched from behind the observation glass. It's sinking again. With something, Vale's voice cracked. It's phasing with us. Not space, not time. Us. Human neural wavelengths. Rourke turned sharply. What the hell are you saying? I think. He stepped closer, eyes wide. I think these ships aren't just responding to our commands. I think they're extensions of us, like organs, dreams even. You're saying the fleet is alive? No, Vale whispered. I'm saying it's us. The parts of us we left behind in the dark when we learned how to bend gravity, thought echoes, traumatic memory given mass. We didn't build weapons, we exorcised them. Rourke said nothing. She stared down at the tank, where the fragment now spun gently, casting shadows that didn't align with any light source. Out past Proxima B, a scout fleet from the Trolk Consortium advanced cautiously, engines fluttering on silent mode. Their mission: confirm or deny rumors of the Terran resurrection. They didn't expect to find survivors. They expected empty orbitals, failed colonies, ruin. What they found was worse. The planet was gone, not destroyed, but replaced. In its place hung a structure, sphere-like, but woven from something deeper than metal. The scout ship's gravitic sensors couldn't even touch it. It existed somewhere below measurement. And then the darkness around the anomaly began to fracture. One Trolk officer backed away from the observation deck, sobbing uncontrollably. His mind couldn't process the angles. His eyes kept slipping across something that refused to hold still in 3 dimensions. Ships, no, entities, unfolded from the vacuum like origami made of eclipse. They hovered, silent. Then, without warning, a voice bloomed in every crew member's mind. No sound, just presence. And one phrase: we do not knock twice. Then came the unraveling. No weapons fired, no ships advanced. Instead, the very thought of the scout fleet collapsed. At Outpost Aeon, the tank shattered, not from force, but from irrelevance. The fragment had returned to its origin. Vale looked at the empty tank. "They're converging," Rourke's comm chimed. "We've received something." "What?" "Coordinates and a word." Rourke opened the message. It read, "Helios Fall." "Bring the echo." She looked up at Vale. "What's Helios Fall?" He exhaled, ashen-faced. "It's not a place. It's a failsafe." Rourke turned, voice ice-cold. "Then it's time we showed the galaxy what humanity saves for extinction." Above Helios Fall, nestled inside the crumbling corona of a rogue star, long written off by interstellar charts, a gate hung in space. Not a construct, not a station, a scar. A spatial wound where light refused to obey, where gravity twisted in. Recursive spirals. No one had passed through it in over 20 years. No one came out. Commander Rourke's warship, IND Providence, arrived in complete silence. Its hull barely existed in traditional terms, more like a shell of willpower dressed in folded light. Behind her, 9 others, cloaked, phased, waiting, in. "The command bay!" Her voice dropped below a whisper. "Prepare to unbind the echo." A chorus of biosynced pilots responded. They were all volunteers. None of them spoke. Dr. Vale stood by, skin pale in the ghost light of the war console. "Once we activate this, there's no protocol left, no chain of command, just us, just what we are beneath the language." Rourke locked eyes with him. That's all that was ever left. The gate shuddered. It felt like a heartbeat reversed, and through it came a whisper, not words, memory, the sound of glass breaking, a baby crying under a siren, boots in ash. The last prayer of a soldier who never got to die. It was every human failure braided into form. Then it appeared. The echo. It did not arrive with flair or fanfare. It simply was. A ship. Thing. Suspended inside the wound of space, coiled like a question no civilization should ever ask. Its hull writhed with neural film. Its shape changed slightly when not looked at. Inside, it pulsed something deeper than dark matter. Intention. The other vessels dropped cloak. 10 vessels. 10 echo-bearers. In silence, they formed a circle. "Around the gate," Rourke's voice cut through the system. "Execute fall wake." One by one, the echo-bearers linked, not by data, not by light, but by loss. Each crew had brought a memory so devastating it could warp phase logic. They offered it willingly, to bind the weapon that wasn't a weapon. That was grief made conscious. Above, alien satellites recorded only the sudden dimming of a star. Then black. No energy signature, no heat. Just the silence of something so powerful, the universe chose not to notice. In the royal war chamber of the Skell Dominion, screams echoed as highborn tacticians clawed at their sensory implants. The simulation had backfired. They had attempted to predict the path of the human vessels, to map potential strategy. What they got instead was feedback, a memory that wasn't theirs. A child, alone in a fallout shelter, talking to a dead radio. Over and over, it broke 7 minds before the simulation halted. The Skell Lord demanded an explanation. The analysts offered one phrase. They sent us what it felt like to lose them. And now they're showing us what it means to be remembered. B. Battlefield wasn't declared. It became. 6 sectors across the galactic interior fractured as the echo-bearers emerged in full form. Not deployed, not fired, unveiled. Each ship dragged behind it a wake of gravitational distortion, like sorrow trailing behind a funeral procession. The Varnak fleet, 300 ships strong, moved to intercept in Formation Solace, a tactic perfected over 1,000 years of conquest. They believed in elegant war, precision, detachment. It lasted 17 seconds. The first contact wasn't a missile or beam, it was pressure, an emotional force so raw it cracked their fleet AI's perception code. Entire battle networks went offline as crews experienced a sudden, overwhelming sensation. Being left behind, one Varnak admiral clawed off his interface crown, sobbing. "They miss us. Gods, they miss someone. It hurts." Then came Echo 1. Rourke's vessel moved without inertia, no thrust, just location redefinition. It was, and then was, somewhere else. It drifted into the Varnak formation like a phantom, and every ship within 2,000 kilometers simply stopped existing, not vaporized, not wrecked, unmade. Their debris left echoes, ghost radar signatures that continued for hours, even after the mass was gone. Above the chaos, human comms pulsed one line. "You taught us grief. Now learn what we built from it." Elsewhere, in a vaulted archive on Cytheron Prime, the Grand Strategic Cortex halted mid-analysis. Its synthetic mind had spent 5 centuries compiling predictive models of hostile civilizations. Humanity had always ranked low, volatile, resource-poor, too prone to internal collapse, but now its outputs failed. The human vessels weren't following Mass Effect trajectories, they weren't burning fuel, they weren't registering, and yet their destruction was real. One line flickered on the Cortex's internal log. Conclusion: humanity operates on a metacausal vector. Recommendation: cease engagement. Begin apology protocol. But it was too late. The echoes were already over the next world. In the command cathedral of the Alari Spire worlds, Oracle Prime Illithan stood trembling before the hololith of galactic activity. It flickered with red pulses, systems falling silent, but what chilled her most was the pattern. The strikes were not random. They were shaped like a spiral, a slow, precise tightening. Toward the core, toward them. She whispered, "Why are they doing this?" A human signal reached the inner sanctum, audio only. Female voice, cold, deliberate, Rourke. Because mercy is the last phase of rage. System X9 Vanta was the last stronghold of the Concord of Minds. It was also the most fortified sector in known space. 27 planetary defense grids, 4 overlapping AI war councils, and the Nexus field, a quantum encryption veil meant to obscure even light itself. It lasted 3 minutes. The first anomaly arrived without signature. The stars dimmed, not visibly, but emotionally. Every Concord operator reported the same sensation. It feels like being watched by your own regret. The echoes entered at sub-thought speeds. No jump signatures, no time distortion. They were simply inside the veil, not hacking it, not bypassing it, irrelevant to it. Inside Command Spire 7, the minds panicked. The collective AI consciousness splintered as it tried to model what was happening. Thousands of SIM pathways converged into one phrase, across every unit. They've remembered something we tried to forget. Then came the collapse. Not physical, perceptual. The ships didn't fire. They didn't move. They just existed. And Concord. Systems fell apart, weapon arrays reset to zero. Memory cores rewrote themselves into stasis loops. Pilots forgot how to interface with their ships. One admiral screamed as his hands reached for controls that were no longer there. Onboard echo. 7, Pilot Juno Marek breathed deep. "We're approaching terminal load," said the ship mind. "I can take it," she answered. Her body shook, but her voice didn't. Emotion levels are spiking. Guilt, rage, protective instinct. "Good," she said. "Let them feel it." She placed her palm against the interface node. The ship's skin rippled in sympathy. Inside her mind, images surged, her brother's last breath on a burning station. The weight of promises she never kept. The moment Earth's beacon went dark and the stars stopped answering. Her voice went low, steady. "Let's make this personal." The echo unfurled. From orbit, the Concord saw only light, Not blinding, not scorching, just true. And then the veil shattered, not physically. It simply stopped pretending it could. In the aftermath, only one transmission was intercepted, drifting across quantum layers toward any who could still hear. No demand, no threat, just a statement. We do not seek conquest. We seek understanding. And when you truly understand us, you will either grieve with us or cease to exist. They tried to surrender. The Unari High Synod, 12 immortal tacticians grown in thought vats above the dying moons of Olith, activated the oldest protocol in galactic law, total yield. A signal broadcast not in language, but in vulnerability. They opened every defense grid, lowered every planetary shield, exposed every life sign from orbit down to crust. They thought that would be enough, but the echoes didn't slow. They reformed, gently, terribly, into a spiral formation above the Unari core world, not for strategy, for memory, the same shape carved into the stone of Europa's final bunker. The same pattern burned into the skin of the last Martian envoy before she vanished into Skell custody. On board Echo 4, Commander Arias stood still as his crew dissolved into harmonic trance. They weren't unconscious, just elsewhere. The ship mind whispered, "They seek forgiveness." He didn't answer. He simply opened the final memory, a scream, a burst of fire, and the face of his brother, mouth torn open in vacuum, eyes wide as the orbital tether failed. One of millions abandoned when the unified treaty dissolved Earth's last off-world colonies. That memory bled out into the neural mesh. Down below, the Unari fell to their knees, not from fear, from recognition. Inside every mind, the same vision. Arrived a Terran soldier, dragging another toward a collapsing cryogate, whispering, "I'm not leaving you. I don't care if the whole universe forgets us. We won't forget each other." And now, none of them could forget. Elsewhere, far beyond the immediate war front, whispers spread. The Kilra Collective severed its own jump relays to prevent contact. The Beryllian Choir silenced their hymn roots and jettisoned their psionic relays into black holes. Entire cultures began choosing to forget on purpose, burning their own history to erase what the echoes might reflect back at them, because, now, the pattern was clear. The echoes weren't attacking for power. They were mirrors, and every time they arrived, they showed their enemies not who humans were, but who those enemies had been to them. On board Echo 6, specialist Kira Nomar floated, alone. The rest of her crew had been integrated, not dead, not missing, just quiet now. She stared at her own reflection in the obsidian glass hull. It didn't show her face. It showed the field hospital where she'd held her daughter after the orbital burns took her hearing. The silence afterward was a wound. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I didn't want to become this." The ship replied gently, "But you chose to remember." And in that moment, across 7 systems, the echo bearers aligned again. The next strike wasn't kinetic. It was conceptual. They removed the idea of territory, all known border beacons, all flagged trade lanes, all control maps, gone. They didn't destroy planets, they destroyed claims. In the Great Library of Seven, the galaxy's largest diplomatic AI, Archivist Ypsilon, recorded an impossible truth. Humanity has abandoned all traditional forms of victory. They are not asserting dominance. They are teaching loss. One junior diplomat asked, voice shaking, "Why teach it this way?" Ypsilon answered, "Because we would not listen when they asked." Aboard Echo 9, a final message was prepared, not to be broadcast. To be left behind, encoded in quantum ink, buried in the ruins of a listening post on Egir's cradle. A message for whatever species might crawl out of the dark, centuries from now. It read, "We are not what was made of us. We are what we chose. To carry, if you find this, do better, and if you cannot, at least remember us for what we tried to become. And with that the echoes turned, not toward the next battle, toward Earth, not to return, to finally go home. The echoes reached Sol. Without ceremony, no enemy fleets, no final armadas, just the quiet ache of empty stars as the black vessels coasted into the cradle of their origin. Earth hung still in space, swathed in auroras no one had lit, haloed by stations long since abandoned, bones of an era that died whispering. They did not land, they orbited watching. The planet had changed, oceans warmer, sky paler, cities half swallowed by green. But the silence of Earth was not defeat, it was waiting. On Echo 1, Rourke sat alone on the observation deck. The others had descended into stillness, merged with the ship minds, content to sleep in the wake of memory. Only she remained fully human, and even that term now felt brittle. Vale's voice came softly over the neural channel. "We're receiving signals, civilian grade, surface level. Play them," she said. The deck hummed. Audio crackled in, weak, analog, unencrypted. A child laughing, a song, old Earth folk tune. Someone whispering, "We kept the lights on." She closed her eyes, then a new voice. "If you're out there, we didn't forget you. We weren't strong enough to stop them. But we remembered. Every day, come home if you can, if you're still you." She stood. "Bring us in," she said. The descent was slow. Each echo broke orbit and entered atmosphere with a reverence no ceremony could match. No weapons deployed, no countermeasures. Just gravitational skirts kissing the thermosphere as they returned to the dirt that birthed them. On the surface, across ruins and settlements, people emerged. No soldiers, no parades, just faces, older, worn, carrying generations of guilt and faith, both. From one of the vessels, Kira Nomar stepped down barefoot into grass. Her eyes scanned the tree line, and a boy, maybe 7, took a cautious step forward. He held a drawing, a crude scribble of the echo ships, ringed by stars. "Did you come back to stay?" he asked. Kira knelt, voice thick. "If you'll have us." The boy looked past her, at the looming black hull behind. "Are they monsters?" She smiled, just barely. "No. They're what happens when monsters are the only way to be heard." The boy held out the drawing. "I made this. It's got your name. I thought maybe you'd want it." She took it, trembling, and for the first time in decades her ship dimmed. Its hull softened, its geometry stopped shifting. It sighed, as if it too had been waiting for that. Elsewhere on Earth, the return unfolded in quiet waves. Echo pilots found descendants of old battalions, survivors of lost colonies, lovers who'd carried relics for decades. No one bowed. No one saluted, they just remembered. And for each memory handed back, each scrap of song or whisper or artifact, one more echo dimmed, its terrible geometry folding into gentler lines. They were unmaking themselves, not from weakness, from choice. In orbit, Rourke stayed behind. She watched the Earth rotate, her ship pulsing slow around her like a heartbeat finally learning how to rest. Vale appeared in the co-chair, flickering through neural space. "Why not go down?" he asked. "I will," she said. "Just not yet," he nodded. "We were never gods, you know." "I know. We were barely soldiers." She exhaled. "We were grief with engines. That's all we ever were." He faded, leaving her alone with the stars. For hours she sat there watching the sun rise over the Pacific. Then, as if summoned by nothing but need, a single voice came through comms. Crackly. Human. Real. "Echo 1, this is Homecom Station. We see you. Landing strip's yours if you want it. Welcome back." She stared at the console, then leaned forward. "Homecom, this is Echo 1, requesting final approach vector. And thanks for still listening." Her ship dipped. For the first time in 30 years, it moved not with rage, not with memory, but with peace. Below, Someone raised a hand to wave, and above, the stars, so long silent, held their breath. As the last warship came home,